It is predicted that U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis on March 27th, 2024. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, as does this time-stamped email and forensic notes PDF document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. All right. It is predicted that Kamala Harris, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, will die in a plane crash on March 27th, 2024, which will be exactly 60 years after the Great Alaska Earthquake on March 27th, 1964. Where to begin with this explanation? Let's begin with the fact that Alaska is the 49th state and Kamala Harris is the 49th U.S. Vice President. This very major prophetic sign, the Great Alaska Earthquake, was the largest ever recorded earthquake in the Western Hemisphere at 9.2 in magnitude. And what I am saying is that the purpose of this prophetic sign that was this earthquake, and by the way, when his disciples asked for the signs of his return to look for, Jesus replied with earthquakes. He mentioned earthquake signs. You would figure that the largest ever earthquake, especially the largest ever earthquake in America, God's Gentile nation, would be prophetic and would communicate something in his big picture of signs. In other words, it would connect in some way profoundly in his big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. It is the 49th state. It was the largest ever earthquake in the Western Hemisphere, but more importantly, the largest ever earthquake in the U.S. at 9.2 in magnitude. God has been using the numbers 9 and 2 in combination with each other to hint at 9/11, the big warning of judgment in 2001, which involved plane crashes. If God were to point to or symbolize 9/11 with only two numbers, this is how he does it. This is how he would do it if you think about it. Because a 2 is a 1 and a 1. And so that's 9/11. That's why this earthquake was 9.2. Now, Kamala Harris's plane crash will be a flight from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles, just like Flight 77 on 9/11 that flew into the Pentagon. This earthquake in 1964 occurred on Good Friday. This is obviously a hint at Jesus, Lord Jesus Christ, but when asked by his disciples for the signs to look for of his return, he mentioned earthquake prophetic signs, and this is in context of his return, his second coming. And therefore, this Good Friday earthquake is a sign that hints at the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ. This will also be, which is why, and I'm jumping ahead now, 2 days before, as in a hint at the second coming, we had a Alaska sign on March 25th, which is today, as I'm recording this. We have a Alaska sign on March 25th involving the second only candidate to win a Senate seat as a write-in, Lisa Murkowski, the controversial senator, I should say, from Alaska. She was, I forget which year, but she was defeated in the primary because she's really not a Republican at all. She runs under the name Republican so that she can get some votes, but she's really a Democrat. And so she lost in the primary, and then she ran as a write-in, and then she won, becoming the second only to do so. She is in the news today 2 days before the predicted crash of the 49th vice president, and she is the senator from the 49th state. The big news of her today is her comments regarding Trump. And Trump is God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs. And before the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment on the ancient city of Jericho, the Israelites marched around the walls of security in a symbolic 3 sets of 7. They marched around once per day for 7 days, and then on the 7th day, they marched around 7 times while blowing 7 trumpets. It was a 7 and a 7 times 7. And 7 times 7 is 49. And the walls of security of Jericho collapsed due to an earthquake. Archaeology proves this, in fact. They know from the manner in which the walls collapsed that they collapsed due to an earthquake. And that's why this earthquake in Alaska, the 7 times 7th state to join the Union, the 49th state. Now, her controversial comments regarding Trump, which makes this book of Joshua, Jericho, walls of security collapsing in God's judgment symbolism, her comments regarded Trump and how she said she had had enough of Trump and would not be supporting Trump in the election because, of course, she is a Democrat. And who knows what she will do now, whether she'll remain with the Republican Party or not. And she shouldn't, because she isn't a Republican. So, so anyway, that's an amazing confirmation sign 2 days before it is predicted that Kamala Harris, the 49th vice president, will die in a plane crash as she travels to the West Coast, which is where Alaska is. So anyway, but the point is that this is 2 days, and that's because she is the second only write-in candidate to ever win a Senate seat. And what is also significant about her is that she is the first Alaska-born senator. Member of Congress, for that matter. First time. So God uses firsts for his signs. She was also controversially appointed the senator at first by her father, the governor of Alaska, who held the Senate seat before she took it. So, anyway, so there's, in other words, yeah, I would call that corruption. But anyway, but it's not anyway, because the big thing here actually is corruption. It is sin. The reason why the Great Alaska Earthquake, also known as the Good Friday Earthquake, is exactly 60 years before it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, is because this hints at G60, the 60th word in Strong's Greek New Testament Concordance, which is the word mourning, as in mourning the death of someone. mourning. And what is God mourning with this 60 years connection? That from this 9.2 magnitude earthquake, which hints at 9/11, he is mourning what Kamala Harris is known for. And she is known for her advocacy and campaigning for abortion rights, the murder of unborn babies. That is what God is mourning. And that is why this 60 years connection from the Good Friday earthquake, that was a 9/11 sign. And so, also, America, this is a judgment on America. This sign is a judgment warning for America. This warning of judgment, which was why the 9/11 symbolism as well, because 9/11 was the big warning of God's judgment. This warning of judgment for America, for the death of Kamala Harris, because she is the abortion rights crusader, is why her death in a plane crash will be 13 days after she became the first vice president or president to visit an abortion clinic. Now, first, Lisa Murkowski is a confirmation of this, and she was the first Alaska-born senator. I think she is also the first woman to represent Alaska in the Senate. So that's another first, and of course Kamala Harris is the first woman vice president, or acting vice president. So why the 13 days connection between when Kamala Harris will, as predicted, die in a plane crash and the day that she visited, the first time a vice president visited an abortion clinic? 13 days symbolizes America. Rather, the number 13 symbolizes America. And that's why, with this judgment sign of this connection between America's strongest earthquake and her death, we have which is all about the mourning of the unborn babies that have been murdered. We have this 13 days, which hints at America. America was founded with 13 colonies. America is the 13th tribe of Israel. This comes from the Bible, in fact. Joseph was replaced with 2 tribes, his 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And God is in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, God demonstrated that Manasseh, the younger of the 2 siblings, received the inheritance. This is because Ephraim is symbolic of the UK, the Great Britain, and its descendant Anglosphere countries. And America, the younger sibling, received the inheritance. And 13 tribes, and so is what 13 colonies hints at, because the tribes were allotted areas of land, and that's what the 13 colonies symbolize. America is Israel. It is God's chosen nation. It is a symbolic Israel. It is God's Gentile nation, in which he used to spread the gospel around the world, along with the other Anglosphere countries in the 19th and 20th centuries. Today, the gospel has gone around the world because of this, because of God's use of the Anglosphere countries. Well, anyway, America is God's Gentile nation, and the number 13 symbolizes America, and that's why this 13 days connection. This is judgment warning for America. Now, we have a connection from the Good Friday earthquake. Why is it named Good Friday? This is the day that commemorates the day that Jesus was crucified and shed his blood for our sin. This 60 years connection hints at mourning and the shedding of blood of innocent unborn babies. 13 days back from the day it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash was the day that she visited the abortion clinic in the 32nd state to join the union. We have the 49th state. I already explained how that is prophetically relevant. The 32nd state hints at 2 things. One, the 48th president, who is the Antichrist, who will be the Antichrist, because 32 is 4 times 8, which hints at 48. The 60 years also hints at the identity of the Antichrist, because it is 2 times 30 years, which hints at 23, and the Antichrist is the basketball president who wore jersey 23 in high school in Hawaii. So 32 for that reason. The Antichrist's name in simple English gematria equals 32, Obama. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, simple English gematria. Also 32 is a reflection of 23, the number again that hints at Obama because of his jersey number. But also, importantly here, the 32nd prime number is 131. And God uses this. This isn't the only instance in which he has used the 32nd state for this, or rather the number 32, I should say. And probably the 32nd state, although I'm not recalling offhand, is that it hints at the 131st word in Strong's Greek New Testament concordance, just like the other connection hints at the Greek concordance, which is the 60th word, the word morning. The 131st word is the word blood disease, which is a hint at the shedding of the innocent blood. But the reason why this is relevant is that the mark of the Antichrist uses unborn cell lines from unborn babies in the development of the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist, and is not a supposed precursor to the mark of the Antichrist. In fact, all things are abominations. In the end here, all the evil and corruption is coming to light, and I am not alone here as being someone who was not fully aware, not aware, I should say, of how all things, all of them, have been abominations, spiritual abominations, because all of them use cell lines from unborn babies in their development. And this is why, but this particular one we're talking about, the thing, you know what I'm talking about, the thing that we can't talk about, is the mark of the Antichrist, and taking it gives someone blood disease because of the other reasons why it is a spiritual abomination, which are explained in the absolute must-watch snake bite video on this channel. I won't get into it again here. And for the commonly held objections that people have based on their understanding of Bible prophecy that tells them that it isn't or could not be the mark of the Antichrist, when this prediction comes to pass, you will know the reason why this prediction has been given from God and why God has given me a voice through this prediction. It is to prove this controversial thing and to end the debate. It is the mark of the Antichrist. In its current form, it does not need an additional something to go with it, such as an additional technology or false form of religious worship or a supposed new age of dispensation after supposedly all quote-unquote Christians are raptured. In fact, one of the main reasons why most quote-unquote Christians have already taken the mark of the Antichrist is that it is judgment for this particular doctrine that Jesus said he hates in Revelation chapter 2, the Nicolaitan doctrine, and is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth of those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine. Taking the thing as an example of such a work. Anyway, that's the reason for this connection between Harris's visits to the abortion clinic in the 32nd state. It's all tied together with the other connection, which is the 60 years connection, which hints at the mourning. Oh, and I forgot to mention, it's because of the mourning of 60 million babies. God knew all along that this would be the amount of babies because Strong's Concordance was written a long time ago. The 60th word is mourning, and there have been 60 million babies murdered in America. So God is mourning these 60 million babies. That's why the 60 years connection from the Good Friday earthquake, which is about the blood that was shed, and it hints at the blood that has been shed of the unborn babies. And then we have this 13 days, which hints at the symbolic number for America to the day that Kamala Harris was in the abortion clinic in the 32nd state, which hints at the blood disease that people get from taking the thing because it contains unborn babies. A couple more things here. The name of the earthquake, the Great Alaska Earthquake, hints at the Great American Eclipse that traversed the country in 2017. This Great American Eclipse, well, the name of this Great American Eclipse is also being used for this upcoming eclipse on April 8th, which will cross over the path of totality of the 2017 eclipse, exactly where it peaked. And the two paths will engender an X over the nation. And at the center of the X will be Cairo, Illinois. This is because the Antichrist is symbolized by the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, in the Bible. And that's why the eclipses go over the area of the country nicknamed Little Egypt, which is where it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. She will die in St. Louis, right near Little Egypt, and where the two eclipses cross each other. The paths of these eclipses that engender an X is a hint at the Tav letter, the Tav mark, which in the Bible, in the book of Ezekiel, was the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist. And this is the point here, and why we have these two connections, because the mark of the Antichrist, again, is an abomination because it contains unborn babies. And that's the reason for these two connections, including the one from the Great Alaska Earthquake, which hints at the Great American Eclipse, that engender an X that symbolize the mark of the Antichrist. X's, by the way, are all about their midpoint, two lines intersecting each other, just like these two eclipses intersect each other over Little Egypt, which gives it Antichrist symbolism. The midpoint date of the two eclipses was December 11th, 2020. And that was the day that I call Thing Day. It was the day that the three-letter organization in Washington approved the thing. And then Trump trumpeted the thing from the Oval Office. And more happened that day, and more connections confirm all of it, but that was Thing Day. It was the I'm mistaken. The midpoint date, there's two Thing Days. The other one is the first day that an American took it without being in a trial, and that was December 14th. That is the mid date. So the first day that someone took the thing is the mid date between the two eclipses, which engender an X, and eclipses, or rather X's, are all about their midpoint. In other words, God clearly identified the identity of the thing, or rather the mark of the Antichrist, as the thing. Which is why Kamala Harris will die near this, and why these two connections from the 49th state, because she is the 49th vice president, involving unborn babies, and then 13 days from when she visited the abortion clinic, which also hints at the thing, because it is the 32nd state, which hints at the 32nd prime number, 131, which is the word that means blood disease, which is what one gets after they take the thing. And the reason for this is because it is judgment, because these things contain unborn babies. A couple more things here. The midpoint date, December 14th, 2020, the day that the first American took the thing, the mark of the Antichrist, that day was a day of a prophetic earthquake. There was a 4.4 magnitude earthquake at Hawaii's highest point that was 4 times 4 miles deep. It was on the northwest flank of Mount Mauna Kea, the highest point in Hawaii, and the 44th president is from Hawaii. Furthermore, his name in Hebrew means high place. Bama, in the concordance, in the Hebrew, means high place. And actually, the name Barack Obama is in itself prophetic, and it incorporates this high place symbolism. Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven in Luke 10:18, and the name Barack Obama means in Hebrew, lightning from heaven. Barak means lightning. Bama means high place, which in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven, as, for example, it is said that Lucifer fell from the high place. And in the language Jesus would have spoken, Aramaic, the word from is O. And so Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. Either Jesus didn't know what he was saying when he said this, or he knew that there would be a famous president named Barack Obama and said this anyway, knowing that it would confuse us, or he was revealing the identity of the Antichrist. Well, anyway, that's why the highest place in Hawaii, the state that symbolizes Obama, was this 4.4 magnitude earthquake, 4 times 4 miles deep on the northwest flank, because in Daniel chapter 8, a prophecy that regards the Antichrist, it is said that the Antichrist comes from the north and the west. That's why the northwest flank of the Hawaii mountain. And so that was this earthquake, and so that was the midpoint date between the two great American eclipses. Again, the Great Alaska Earthquake hints at this. But what I also just remembered and realized is that this 60 years exact connection from the Alaska, or rather Great Alaska Earthquake, to the date it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash near Little Egypt, and the area of the country where the paths of the two eclipses cross over each other, is that these paths of the eclipses cross over the area of the New Madrid seismic hot zone, the location of the strongest earthquake in U.S. history east of the Rockies. And God is pointing to this because there will be an upcoming devastating earthquake. And that is also why the path of totality of the 2017 eclipse, if you look at it on a map, passed over all of the major seismic hot zones in the U.S. And so that is why it is astounding that we have this exact 60 years connection to this upcoming predicted event that will point to the eclipses, which point to the earthquakes, the seismic hot zones, and the New Madrid seismic hot zone. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video. And once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more. Don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.